Welcome back to Ozarks Tonight. I'm Heather Lewis. Steve Pokin with the Springfield News Leader is joining us again on this Friday. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
So we are talking about your Pokin' Around column today, and you met a man, heard about a man, and learned of him bursting with life through his obituary.
I did. It was
How did you come across this?
It's the old-fashioned way. So on Thursday, I'm in the newsroom, and there's only a couple of us that go in there. It's a big cavernous newsroom, so not a lot of people there. I break for lunch, and I'm old-fashioned. I take the print product, and I'm reading the paper, and I'm reading about the Betsy Fogel, Steve Helms recount. Story jumps to the inside. I read the inside jump, and at the last second, the jump is next to an obituary. It catches my eye. And this is Thursday, and this is my column for Sunday. A lot of times I already know, I didn't know what I was going to write about. So this obituary catches my eye, and it says, Charles the Chuckster, Edward McGinnis. So I got to read this. I want to know more about the Chuckster. And it was one of the more interesting obituaries I've ever read. It was so fun-loving and quirky and different. And the Chuckster died November 6th, and I think he was 75. And he gave everybody a nickname. Everybody in life had a nickname. And if you're lucky, you had two. And he would, everybody, if he knew you well enough, he'd have like a couple notes from a song. He'd sing your song when you showed up. And the obituary was written where, you know, it listed his kids and his wife by nickname. It didn't have their names, you know. Subi Sabi was one daughter, and and it talked about how he loved the golf and his golfing buddies, and it said that you knew if you golf with him when you were in the middle of the backswing, if you felt like, you know, his golf club hitting your leg or something, you knew that was my dad.
He was a prankster.
He was a prankster, and he just seemed like had such a zest for life. And I was curious as to who wrote this. Mm-hmm. And it crossed my mind, maybe he wrote it in advance. Maybe the Chuckster wrote it himself.
We've heard of people doing that before and leaving it.
So I wanted to find out, and I couldn't, through public records, I couldn't get a phone number, so I found out where the Chuckster's widow lived, and I went there, and she, her name is Carol, was there with 2 of her 3 children. And they were delighted to talk to me.
What did you say? What was their reaction when you knocked on the door?
Well, first of all, I mask up. You know, I mask up. They don't know I'm coming. I knock on the door, and I say I'm with the newspaper, and sometimes people get frightened by that. But more and more, the longer I've been in Springfield, and this is remarkable to me, and I say I'm a columnist, my name is Steve Pokin, and then I heard her daughter, I know who that is, so it kind of like that really
broke
really
the
helped.
ice a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not up to the level of, you know, like TV anchors,
no.
But there is some recognition there the longer I work here. I met the son, Chris. He is 49. And he actually lives in St. Charles, but because his dad passed away on November 6th, he was there. He wrote it. I said, well, how did this come to you? I mean, this is really funny, and it really got my attention. And he said, it wasn't my first draft. My first draft was the typical obituaries, survived by, preceded in death by, and I finished it, and I hated it. It just seemed so disconnected from my father, and he wouldn't have wanted this written this way. So then I tried again, and I thought, you know, and that's when he threw in Charles the Chuckster. He once had a trucking company, and he was called the Chuckster Truckster. I don't know if that was where it started, but that's.
Yeah.
So he said, this time it took me only 20 minutes. It came easily, other than the couple times I had to stop to cry. But he wanted to run it by his mom and his two siblings. They loved it. And his sister Amy said, you know, the first one was lovely, but it was kind of boring, and my dad was anything but boring. So that's what they went with, and I guess I was there maybe 30 to 40 minutes on a Thursday afternoon. And Carol, the widow, her phone was just ringing, and the first thing that struck me is that, man, people really read obituaries, because everybody she knew was calling who they'd seen the obituary, and they said the same thing. They said, that was Chuck. And it seemed like a guy who he seized the day every day. And sometimes, according to Chris, you know, when he was younger, Chris is married now, but he was younger growing up, his dad, every time they went to a restaurant, he would just start talking to the waiters, the waitresses. He'd be making jokes, and he'd say, oh, and by the way, you know, for the waitresses, this is my son, Chris.
Doesn't he look good?
Yeah, isn't he handsome? Do you happen to know that he is single? And Chris wanted to just crawl up and, you know, and disappear. But that's the kind of guy his dad was.
And I understand there's not a celebration of life just yet.
There is not. They heard the funeral home offered to do that, but they heard the restrictions. There would have to be glass shields. There would have to be social distancing, a cap on the number of people. And everybody in the family agreed that Chuck would not want that. So they're going to wait till next year, and they're going to have a celebration of life. And the way Carol describes it is they're going to drink some beer and tell some stories.
What a beautiful reminder, though, just to seize the day and live your life, and that's how you'll be remembered, too.
Yeah. I read, and, you know, in talking to the family, I wish I had known this guy. I would have added to my life in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. The story of the Chuckster is going to be in the Springfield News Leader's Steve Pokin's column, Poking Around, coming up this Sunday. To read all of it, make sure you get that paper. Steve, thanks so much for being here.
Well, thank you.
And you have a good weekend coming up, and we will be right back with more Ozarks Tonight. Keep it here.